Everyone, what's up? It's me again, Junkmaster3, and I'm finally back with a new video. This is going to be this is sort of like a continuation of an old playlist or whatever that I started like maybe like 1 year ago now, because I think it was quite a while since I did a part like this, but I did a video series of me talking about underrated or overlooked or forgotten horror films that I think need more recognition and more love. So I basically picked out 5 titles which I don't hear that many people talk about in general, and yeah, I used to talk a little bit about them and how I feel about them and stuff like that. So yeah, sort of say like 5 underrated horror films in general. So yeah, let's begin right away. And these are not in any like particular order of how I like them. I really like all of these films. So yeah, no sort of like ranking or anything like this. This is just 5 random titles which I picked up from the shelves that I think need more love and more recognition. So yeah, let's begin right away. First up, we have this one, I Drink Your Blood, from the early 70s. And you can clearly tell that this is from the 70s. This is about really like, I think it's like a hippie cult in a way, and they are really twisted and really evil from the get go. But this turns out to be really deadly because when they go to this town and basically acts like assholes, one of the I think it's one of the inhabitants, the one little kid, he's basically like poisons their food with like, I think it's like rabies or something like that. It's like from a dead dog or something, and they get like rabies. I mean, these hippies get rabies, which is really weird and really awesome in a way. And then all hell breaks loose. So it sort of gets to be, it's sort of like a zombie film in a way, not zombie like zombie film, but it sort of reminds me of an ordinary zombie film. So yeah, this is a really weird ass film. I don't really hear a whole lot of people talk about. I mean, I know for sure, like some of you hardcore fans out there probably know about this film, but for those of you who have mostly watched mainstream films, this is a film you need to watch if you want to have a really good time. Uh, and also the gore effects are really good one in this one as well, in my opinion, at least for 70s standards. So yeah, I Drink Your Blood, really underrated. Then we have this film, which I think this have gained somewhat of a more cult following in the latest years, because before this particular release, I think there was maybe like an old Region One or Region Two release, and I think more people know about this now than they did before. But anyway, this is the film called Dead Heat. This is more of a mix between um, action and horror. Um, but I would say it's more of an action sci-fi type of film than a straightforward horror film, even though it has some horror elements to it. And once again, this is another film which has really cool special effects, and it's basically about these two cops who um, they don't get very along that good. So it's sort of like a buddy cop movie in a way. But one of these guys, they get trapped in I think it's some sort of facility, like experiment facility, and he basically dies, and then he gets back to life in a weird way. I don't really remember everything about this, but and then he has to team up and pretty much wipe out these guys that were involved in these really creepy experiments in a weird way. So, but yeah, I think the acting is really good as well, and I think it's really funny to see Vincent Price is one of his lost roles, making a small little role here. I mean, he doesn't have that big role, or like he doesn't have that big of a screen time, but still, I think he's really entertaining in this one as well. Uh, and the rest of the cast is like Joe Piscopo and what's his name? Treat Williams, of course, who plays the cops. So yeah, Dead Heat, really underrated. Then we have a somewhat of a newer film. I'm saying newer film. I mean, this is like 13 years old right now, but everything from like the early 2000s up to now is like new for me. So yeah, what the hell? This is a film which I don't hear a whole lot of people talk about at all. I believe, yeah, I don't think he was directed by him, but I think Alexandra Aja was involved with this, and he's most famous for directing the Hills of Ice remake, and the pretty new film called Crawl about those killer alligators. So uh, I think he's a really underrated director in general. But this is not directed by him. I think it was only like a producer or something on this one. But this is the film called P2. Basically, it takes place in a parking, not a parking lot, but like a parking facility. And I will say facility all the time now, but anyway. And this woman gets trapped in here. I mean, she's like off to go home from work to um, celebrate Christmas with her family, but unfortunately for her, she gets trapped in this building, the building where you park your car, but what the hell you want to call it. But yeah, anyway. And she gets trapped in there, and of course, there's like a lunatic in there who basically takes her hostage. So it's basically up to her to try to escape from this madman, basically. And yeah, it's more of maybe like psychological horror than a straightforward like horror like slasher film. But yeah, really tense moments in this one as well. And yeah, I really think the bad guy is really good one in this one as well. So yeah, this is another one which I don't hear a lot of people talk about in general. So, but yeah, P2. Now I've almost talked for like 7 minutes, so I'm gonna speed up a little bit. At least I'm gonna attempt to do that. The next film I barely heard anyone talk about at all. I think this was released quite recently on maybe like like a Vinegar Syndrome Blu-ray or something like that. I'm not too sure. I think there were some of those newer companies that released this one on Blu-ray, but this is an older like DVD release, like Scandinavian DVD release of this film, and I've never heard anyone talk about it before, so I was like, why the hell not? A film called Party Line. This is maybe more of a not a slasher film, but more like a serial killer type of deal. About this serial killer who goes around basically killing off hookers with, I believe it was like the telephone wire. So yeah, this is from the late 80s, I believe. I don't remember. I think that's from the late 80s. I can't be so wrong about that. I think it's the late 80s. Um, I believe there was a pretty good soundtrack on this one, or maybe it was a score that I really liked in this one. Um, but I mean, there's nothing like that, like nothing too spectacular in this film. I mean, you've seen this storyline like over and over again, but maybe it's just that I have such a weak spot for some of these films that basically have this type of storyline, and for some of you people maybe think that's just tiresome and really frustrating when there's like movies that do that all over again and not being original. But I think this still has some sort of atmosphere in it which I really like. I just can't really put my fingers on what, but if I remember correctly, the acting in this wasn't really the greatest, but the overall like storyline is really interesting in my opinion. And maybe, like I said before, I might have a weak spot for some of these older like slasher like crime films in general. So, but anyway, Party Line. Now the last one is a film which I probably might have mentioned before, but yeah, this is I think this might have been one of my first Anchor Bay DVD releases that I ever bought. And yeah, I'm so glad that I have this release because this has two different versions in it, and I'm not too sure if the newer Blu-ray or DVD releases have the same like options or like the same like special features. But yeah, now I'm just gonna stop mumbling and talk about the movie. The movie is Evil Speak with Clint Howard. Clint Howard plays this, what's his name? Cooper Smith. Yeah, Stanley Cooper Smith. He's picked on in his high school, I believe, and of course no one likes him. There's only like one guy in the school who's, I think he's like a teacher or a cook or something, and also like a small little cat, like a kitten. That's his only friends that he has in his whole world basically, and everyone treats him like garbage. And yeah, of course it builds up to him slowly being really really angry, and he's sort of like this nerd, so he goes into this computer, and in a weird way like Satan like is inside of this computer, and basically Satan tells him what to do to gain powers or something like that. I think it was something like that. And of course Stanley gets possessed by Satan himself So he basically do this just to take revenge on these bullies, but it gets really bloody and really gory, and yeah, so he's basically lost. I mean, Satan has basically taken his soul. I think that's basically what this movie's about. I'm not gonna spoil what's gonna happen in the entire film, but that's sort of like the plot line of this film. And so yeah, if you like possessed films, not possessed films, but if you like those type of possession films, I think you will definitely like this one. This one has some really cool gore effects towards the end. I'm not gonna spoil what's gonna happen, but yeah, really cool gory scenes. And I believe there's two versions: the U.S. feature length version and the uncut feature length version. I'm not too sure why the US cut was cut from the beginning though, because often when it comes to cut films, it seems like the UK, they are like really harsh when it comes to cutting their movies, but the US seems to be more free and not as strict when it comes to censorship, at least not when it comes to some horror films. So yeah, that's just my opinion about this film. And yeah, Evil Speak. Sorry for mumbling for like almost 12 minutes now, but yeah, I'm doing my best and trying to explain these films, trying not to spoil them as much as I probably did anyway. But yeah, that's how it goes sometimes. And yeah, if you want to see more films, not films, but if you'd like to see more videos like this in the near future, just leave me a comment down below and I'll try to do that. And yeah, sorry for not like answering some of your questions or some of your comments in my latest video. I'm gonna get to that. I know I've been a little bit not lazy, but I've sort of forgotten about those because I've had other things on my mind right now. But I'm gonna get to those eventually. So yeah, hope everyone enjoyed and didn't get bored, and I hope to see you again as soon as possible. So see you next time. Bye bye.